welcome back to another episode of the Scoreboard. We have a packed show today. We're going to be talking about the NFL draft, recapping that once again. We're going to give some predictions and some quizzes about the upcoming NFL season, and we're going to have a look at potential landing spots for Kawhi Leonard, who's kind of the gem of this season's NBA free agency, kind of the big name that people are talking about right now. I got Smokey Rameriz in the house with me once again. Smokey, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. How you been this week?
I've been doing great, but looking forward to this. We've got a bunch of pretty good topics that I've been looking forward to discuss with you, and I got some interesting picks also. First one is the one that probably interests me the most because we're comparing NFL draft grades. Now, when I did my NFL draft grades, I didn't put too much thought into it. I kind of wrote them out on Twitter as they happened while I was watching it, so I didn't get too much time to kind of debate with myself how I actually felt about those picks. But having done a bunch of scouting beforehand, I kind of had an idea on what I expect teams to pick and how that differed from what they ended up doing. I might update those picks as we go along. I just have it open right now. I'm going to read them out the way I graded them, and we're going to compare them to your grades. And we're going to start off with the first pick, I'd say, right off the bat. The Arizona Cardinals selected Kyler Murray, quarterback out of Oklahoma. And I've hinted at this last week already. I'm a fan of Josh Rosen's, and I'm not that big of a fan of Kyler Murray. But let me hear what you have to say about this pick.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do take into account that you love Josh Rosen. But here's the thing. Kyler Murray, coming from Oklahoma, down there under Lincoln Riley, he has produced 2 Heisman winners back-to-back. And is he a product of the system, or is he really just that good? Now, I've heard him compare to multiple players. I think the best one I heard was Cam Newton's mobility with Matt Ryan's arm. Now, I think he's got a little better arm than that. I mean, he may not have the accuracy of a Matt Ryan, but I mean, he's definitely not a Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen arm. But the guy is really mobile, and it almost feels like a lateral move to me from Josh Rosen to Kyler Murray, considering Kyler Murray is unproven at the moment. So, you know what? I'm giving it a B, a solid B, because I can't go with an A. Some people are extremely high. Cliff Kingsbury coming in there, you know, it's all unproven to me. So I'm going to stick with a B.
All right, so how about this one? How about Colin Kaepernick without the size and without the physicality? I did not like this pick at all. Well, I did like the pick from a fan point of view, but that's not important. I was not as high on Kyler Murray as people were. I had a mid-third round grade on him. I think the hype was getting way higher than it had to be. My instant draft grade was a D-, and I'm going to stick with that. And the only reason I'm not giving him an F right off the spot is because I know that they at least have a plan to integrate him into the system. Listen, Kyler Murray, you named the arm of Matt Ryan, mobility of Cam Newton. How about the height of Doc Flutie? In today's NFL, I'm not buying that. When I discussed the pick before the draft happened in the scouting videos, I invented a metric which is height of release. The metric probably exists, but I came up with it to evaluate some quarterbacks, because people talk a lot about how tall quarterbacks are and can they see the field, can they scan the field. That's really not the important part. See, what you got to realize about quarterbacks is smaller quarterbacks like Murray, like people like Baker Mayfield, from a very early age, they learn looking between offensive linemen. They're not looking over the offensive line. They never have. So that's not going to be a problem. But here's what's going to be a problem. The height of Kyler Murray's release, which is his height plus the length of his arm, minus subtract about a foot between the difference from the top of his head to his shoulder pads, is a solid 3 to 4 inches lower than even Russell Wilson, because his arms are shorter, and over half a foot lower than Aaron Rodgers, who by no means is a tall quarterback. That's going to create some problems with just release angles, because if you release the ball barely over the height of some of your defensive linemen, there's some passes that you physically just can't make from the pocket. The short, intermediate, quick, and strong arm heavy passes on those drag routes, those slant routes, it's gonna be tough. So you're gonna be seeing a lot of spread formation. You're gonna be seeing a lot of rollouts and mobility, and he's gonna have to, that's of course his greatest strength is his mobility, and he's gonna have to put that to good work in Arizona because he's gonna be running a lot. You go from I said this before, I believe last week, the number 1 offensive line in college football to the number 32 offensive line in the NFL, and you're in a division that is stacked up on pass rushers more than basically any division in the league. You're going to be facing D Ford, Nick Bosa, Aaron Donald, DeForest Buckner twice a year. You're going to be running for your life. And I believe I said this exact thing last week. You better be Russell Wilson, because if you're not, you're going to go down. I don't think he's Russell Wilson. I don't think he'll ever be Russell Wilson. I don't even like the situation he's in as much as other people do. I think Josh Rosen is just a better quarterback. I think this is a wasted pick. They should have gone defensive line. But they seem to be convinced of what they got. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen. I've been wrong on quarterbacks before, God knows it. I wasn't very high on Baker Mayfield when he came out. Not because of on-field stuff necessarily, but he's definitely proven me wrong so far. But Kyler Murray, I don't believe in from a football standpoint. I don't think he's going to be a viable pro quarterback.
Yeah, I agree with you. Man, do you think... do you have the stats right offhand? How tall is Drew Brees?
Drew Brees, I believe, is 6 flat.
Okay, so yeah,
I don't have the combine stats, but that's usually what he goes by. So Russell Wilson is like 5'11" or 5'10" and a half or something.
They're all in that comparable range. And Baker Mayfield was 6 flat also, right?
Yeah, Baker Mayfield was I think 6 and a quarter or something, which is fair enough. That's still considered to be the shorter end. But
this is why this is helpful talking to you, being the analyst. But the arm length is the difference, huh?
The arm length is way more important. The height of release is kind of the thing the factor that creates the physical problem. Shorter quarterbacks know to look between linemen. They're using the gaps between the linemen to read down the field. That's what they have to do. That's what they've always done. That's not going to be the big issue.
I have watched
the 2 big issues.
I'm sorry.
Keep going.
No, go ahead.
So the 2 big issues, like I mentioned, are going to be getting the angles right to hit those underneath passes, which is going to be tough without getting everything batted down. And finding your role as a pro. You're going to be under so much pressure. First overall pick, and you're going to be running for your life. You don't have a lot around you. You have a Larry Fitzgerald as your security blanket, who's 40 million years old. He can still play football, obviously. He's still one of the better players. But this team right now isn't looking very good. It was a bad team. That's why they picked first overall. And replacing one of the positions that they really didn't necessarily have a need, glaring vacancy at, doesn't seem to be the choice for me here.
I agree with you, man. I really think that O-line needed the most help, and they could have drastically improved this. Even D-line. We'll get into this, but look at how many of the Clemson D-line guys got picked up. There's, I almost feel like dropping it at least to a B-. I'm gonna do that right now. I'm going with B-. You've talked me into it because.
All right, got you convinced. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. We'll see how it turns out. Maybe it'll turn out be a complete.
Yeah, we're gonna have to save this and come back to it.
Yeah.
Later in the season.
Of course. Like next year, we'll have some insight, like we did do this year about some rookies from last year. But talking about all those great D linemen, I think this was probably the best draft class in terms of defensive line, or at least pass rushers, edge rushers that I've ever seen. Which is since, it doesn't say too much, since like 2011, 2010 or something. They haven't been doing it for that long. But the next couple of picks pretty much tell the whole story. First of all, you got Nick Bosa going 2nd overall to the 49ers, which I love that pick. I think it's an A+. You have 2 players basically that are considered the two best players in the draft, which are Nick Bosa and Quinn Williams. You got your pick. 49ers went with edge, which I believe makes a lot of sense. I think he's the guy they've been looking for all along, and I think this was an easy pick for them to make. I have an A+. It's the best pick they could have made, so any perfect best player available pick gets an A+ for me. And they also filled a position of a little bit of need, so I can't disagree with this.
I agree with you fully. I actually gave them an A+. The 49ers needed that position filled, and like you say, if not the best player in the draft, at least the second behind Quinn Williams, and of course they went 2 and 3 right here back to back. And that that Alabama defensive line was not far behind Clemson's D line.
No, Alabama's known for producing defensive front players.
Course.
Like look back every single year, you have guys there. You got you look back at Reuben Foster, Reggie Ragland, even. You've always had people there, and Quinnen Williams is potentially the best three technique / inside defensive lineman that's been coming out of that college for 10 years now, which says a lot because people are getting drafted left, right, and center. And speaking of Quinnen Williams, obviously he went number 3 to the Jets. It's an A+ for me. Easy pick. Best player available, filling a position of need. The Jets, you need a lot of stuff. The one thing you have in place is your quarterback of the future, and this is exactly how you work that. This is model behavior. When you got the quarterback in place, you build around him. You give him the best support with the best players you have available. You got Le'Veon Bell in free agency. You drafted the best player in the draft, and he's going to make an instant impact on your defense. Great pick.
Yep, I agree with you fully. Not much to expound upon that, but I gave them a solid A. The Jets definitely they need a lot. I know you're high on the Jets this year, as a dark horse pick, but they do need a lot, and I'll give them that. I mean, Quinnen Williams, you couldn't have done any better in this draft, so I'm gonna go with an A.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, no doubt he was the best pick at the spot. Now, pick number 4 is the first one that kind of threw everything already. So I literally I didn't have a grade yet. I literally wrote down, what did they do? What did they just do? Because I was shocked. I was sure it was gonna be. I was sure it was gonna be Josh Allen. I thought it was gonna be Josh Allen. You thought it was gonna be everyone did that. Even the Raider. You've seen some of the shots of the Raider fans at the draft, hearing it live. They couldn't believe it.
I even saw some that are like,
they were
what? Why?
Yeah, people were pulling faces. Yeah. That was completely out of left field. Cleveland Farrell, the defensive end out of Clemson. Now, I like him as a good player. I had a first round grade on him.
Lower.
He was my 4th overall edge rusher in this draft, and he goes as the 2nd still. Very much a reach considering you have another pick in this first round, 2 as a matter of fact. You don't need to pick him at 4 because you can get him with your second pick. He would have been
available at 15. Let me see. How far were they down? I know. Sorry, I'm looking through here to see where their next pick was. Jesus. Well, it was way. I think he would have been available. Of course, they picked Josh Jacobs with the next pick, which we'll get to that later. It wasn't bad, but he would have been available there, if not even later.
Yeah, for sure. I think so too. Now, granted, he's a good player, and if you believe in a guy enough and you've decided on this is going to be our guy, put your pick into it. I don't think you had to. I think you would have gotten him later. So not the best value. I'm going to give this a C. It's still a pretty shocking pick to me, but they seem to know what they're doing for, to whatever extent you can talk about knowing what someone's doing when you're talking about the John Gruden Raiders.
I can't believe we agree this much, but I gave them a C also.
Yeah.
And for the exact same reasons you just talked about. Man, yeah, he's a solid player, a military guy, but he would have been available so much later. You almost wasted a pick.
And I have to just think that from what I did, the scouting that I did, Josh Allen's a better player.
No, by far.
And I had Montez Sweat being a better player, filling the same spot. Now, of course, he's got his own kind of downsides to him with the injury concerns, the health concerns. But Farrell, very, very much a questionable pick for me. And pick number 5, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with a not questionable pick, Devin White, linebacker out of LSU. Probably as secure of a pick, as a surefire of a linebacker you can get in this draft. Best inside linebacker in this draft class. I like him going to Tampa Bay, and I graded this with a solid A.
I gave it a B+, as a matter of fact. Which I'm not far behind you, though. He was a combine standout. He really showed up for the combine. And I wouldn't say he's a workout warrior, but, he proved himself at LSU. Had to watch him hold my Georgia Bulldogs in the worst game of the season this past season. Former running back, as a matter of fact, Devin White. I'm going with a B plus, man.
Solid pick, not much to criticize. You go side to side, he can hit, he can play. Definitely solid pick. Now number 6, we're getting into the dubious territory again. Got the Giants. Everyone was expecting to pick a quarterback here, don't get me wrong, but they weren't expecting to pick Daniel Jones out of Duke. Now I like this pick more than other people do, because Daniel Jones is coming into the draft was my second overall quarterback in the class, with Kyler Murray being my number 3. I know about a lot of people who had him not even in their top 5 at all. Now I had Drew Lock at number 1. Drew Lock number 1, and Daniel Jones number 2. Yeah, and then Kyler Murray was my number 3, and Dwayne Haskins was number 5 for me. So this to me is a better pick than Haskins. Still, Drew Lock would have been better. I graded this a B minus, and I know a lot of people were way more shocked about this and didn't like it. I don't hate it. I like the fact that he's a prototype quarterback. He's not going to be your super flashy, super mobile guy, your super most physically talented guy, but he very much has the potential to be pro style guy, and I do think he fits the Giants. I don't think that he's worth a 6th overall pick, but then again, I don't think any quarterback in this draft was worth even being picked in the first round, because it was a really bad draft for quarterbacks. But the value of that position just is so high these days that people like Murray and like Jones are getting picked ridiculously high.
Yeah, I think Dave Gettleman looked at the lineup of quarterbacks and said, who is the most like Eli? And I would think at some point there was the criticism Eli has gotten, and Eli, I don't know, man. This is Eli's replacement. That's all I can say. This is Eli's replacement, because he is Eli 2, Eli Jr. And
if he wins you 2 rings,
well, yeah. I mean, I guess if they end up with 2 rings, they'll be happy. But
you'd rather draft Peyton 2 than Eli 2. But if he wins you 2 rings against the Patriots, you've played your cards right, so you can't complain about it. What I'd say though, let him sit for a year or at least half a year. Don't throw him in right away. You're not winning this season. You're not a winning football team right now. Just don't push your luck. The Browns did that way too much with Johnny Manziel, Deshaun Kaiser. Every time they pushed their luck, and it just ended up breaking the player and not improving the team. So be smarter than that. Eli's still around. Just let him do his thing. You're probably not gonna make the playoffs. You're not gonna be competing. Play for the future, and play it safe. Now the Jaguars at number 7 couldn't believe their eyes, I think, when they were sitting in their war room, and Josh Allen from Kentucky, for a lot of people the 2nd or 3rd best player in the entire draft, is still available. Clear A plus for me. I mean, they made the easy best pick available. Couldn't have seen it any other way. I had them go offensive line before in my mock draft. Not expecting this to happen though.
Yeah, I give it an A. I mean, I guess I could go higher considering he was the best player left available. Jags are probably sitting there thinking, oh my God, I can't believe he's still on the board, after that flub by the Raiders.
Yeah. But I actually considered the Jaguars to be one of the biggest winners from the entire draft because of this, and because a potential offensive lineman in Juwan Taylor fell to the 2nd round to be picked up by him, which they could have easily picked in this spot.
Yeah, and Josh Allen actually had the biggest part in turning around that Kentucky game. Yep. They were perennially, if not the worst, the 2nd worst team in the SEC. And Josh Allen, along with Stoops coming in, and I don't know that it's more Stoops' fault than Josh Allen's, but Josh Allen was, like I said, the best player. He's a sack machine. He's gonna be great for the Jags. I mean, that's already a dominant defense. We saw what they did in 2018 or 2017. I'm sorry, and
versatility. You get it seems like 20 different super fast linebackers running sideline to sideline, hitting everybody, getting to the quarterback. It's an immense defense, and Josh Allen fits it perfectly. I didn't even notice how well he fit that defense because I never expected him to go there. I didn't even scout for that. But now that he's there, I think he's at a great spot in a great system with great players along that defensive front, and perfect situation for both parties.
Yes.
Pick number 8, Detroit Lions on the clock. They picked T.J. Hawkinson, tight end out of Iowa. I think this is a very solid pick. Not what I had projected, but tough to criticize picking the best player at a position that you would need another player at. T.J. Hawkinson can absolutely ball out. Iowa is known for producing basically the best tight ends in the nation at this point. The only 2 first-round graded tight ends in this year's draft were from Iowa. George Kittle is from Iowa. So that's the one thing that Iowa is definitely good at.
Yeah, and this is it's a very solid player, very solid, good blocking tight end at that. But seeing what the Lions did with Eric Ebron, they're really going to go, they're going to give it another try. And I don't see him being all that productive with the Lions. I don't think that, you got Matt Patricia there now. He's a defensive-minded coach. I don't know that the Lions know how to use a tight end at this point.
I think you spoke about the defensive-minded coach, so he's not going to obviously not be the offensive guru that you might see in, for example, Kyle Shanahan working with George Kittle. But that's why you want a guy that's just a security blanket, a guy that's just ready to go and play, who's a pro on day one, because you can plug him in and not tend to him too much, not focus too much on having to develop him because he's already ready to go, and have him be good, have him be productive, and I think Hawkinson is going to fill that spot.
Hey, and he gets the
pick number 9.
I'm sorry, he gets to work under my favorite offensive coordinator now, Jim Bob Cooter, and I love him just for his name.
Yeah. Gonna be interesting to see in a tough division though, so we're gonna have to wait for that. Yeah, Ed Oliver to the Buffalo Bills out of Houston, the defensive tackle, considered the number 1 interior defensive lineman in the nation for a while, until kind of Quinnen Williams came up with that last season. Ed Oliver's a beast. It's an A+ for me. I think this is the pick they've been eyeing all along, and they got exactly what they wanted out of this.
He killed it for Houston down there, didn't he? He had that little trouble with the coach at the end of the season when he had to sit out, and the coach wanted to make him take that jacket off. You remember that?
yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
But if he does not have attitude issues, this is going to be a great pick for the Bills. I love the Bills.
Yeah, there is a reason he draws comparisons to Aaron Donald, and it's not just him being a little bit undersized for the typical defensive tackle, but he also got moves, and he can rush the passer, and he can get places. So I love that pick. Steelers at 10 select Devin Bush out of Michigan. Again, very solid pick. Exactly what I expected him to do. I got an A- on it. The second best linebacker in this draft. Position of need for the Steelers, and a pretty solid pick that there really isn't much to criticize about that. I think he fits the team very well. Fits what they're doing really well. And it's a good approach for the Steelers to strengthen up that defense.
Yeah, they got this pick with the trade with Denver. And he's a great playmaker. I like Devin Bush coming out of Michigan. There's not a whole lot to praise.
I gave it an A-. I gave it an A- because I don't think the trade was necessary to secure that player at that spot. I don't think you had to. But you got what you got, and that's a smart decision. So
he was graded in the top 10 picks in some pre-draft rankings, but
Steelers won't regret it. The Cincinnati Bengals at 11 picked Jonah Williams. Now, Jonah Williams was one of my absolutely top-rated offensive linemen out of Alabama. We've talked about the strength in the trenches for the Crimson Tide. I got an A- rating on that. I think offensive lineman is a good issue to address. I would have liked them to potentially take a shot at quarterback here, specifically
Andy
because
Dalton.
you still have Drew Loughlin up, but I think the Bengals, and this might be tough to hear for some fans, but we might be looking at a bit of a tank in the upcoming years, because the next 2 quarterback classes are going to be good. They're going to be fire. We know that, and the first 2 first overall picks are both going to be major jackpots, and presumably Tua Tagovailoa and Trevor Lawrence.
Yes.
And I can see the Bengals playing a role in at least one of those. So setting a good foundation with a strong offensive lineman who's versatile, can play all the positions, is a good enough choice for me.
I agree with you. It is a solid pick, and I can see the Bengals tanking this season. And pulling tank for Tua, as they say, and that could be their plan. You know, there wasn't a I don't know that there was a viable replacement outside of. I wouldn't even say Kyler. Of course, he wasn't going to be available at this point in the draft, but Jonah Williams is great though. I give it a solid B.
I can see the idea of just wanting to look toward the future. Now, pick number 12, the Packers select Rashawn Gary out of Michigan. This came a little bit out of left field for me because I had a lot of pass rushers still ranked ahead of him. He was my number 6 in terms of pure pass rushers in this draft. If I had to actually consider him as part of that edge group, I've graded it a B because obviously then they've done their research. They need the position very much so, as a matter of fact, put some pressure on the quarterback and compete in a tough division at this point, which by no means they're guaranteed to win or even make the playoffs in anymore. So they got to step up their game. Strengthening up defense isn't a bad idea, but I can't help but notice that Aaron Rodgers still does not have an awful lot to work with.
Well, he really doesn't, but I'm not with you. I think they are going to make the playoffs, as we discussed in the last episode.
Right.
So strengthening the defensive line is not a bad move for them right here. Rashawn Gary, I watched a little bit of Michigan this past season, and he didn't quite stand out to me. I think there probably were some defensive ends that they could have went in with over Rashawn Gary, but I give it a C.
Miami Dolphins at 13. I think they, at this point, had one specific quarterback in mind. That name was Josh Rosen, and they didn't even think about going quarterback here. They select Christian Wilkins, one of the best players available, defensive tackle out of Clemson. Not necessarily their strongest position if need, but definitely one. And considering that they got the quarterback later, the Dolphins were one of the biggest winners of draft night for me, of the entire draft, as a matter of fact. I said this in a video I made about reviewing the draft. They got the best quarterback available in the entire offseason for a 64 overall pick or something crazy. Christian Wilkins, value pick, great player, B+ for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a B. I can't quite go to the B+, but sometimes I think that there's a championship bias. I mean, you win a natty, people just look at that team and go, I need all of those players that are available. And I'll give it though, the Clemson D-line was outstanding this year. But
well, yeah, I think that's what the Dolphins were kind of thinking. We can get us a Clemson guy who did some good stuff. We'll settle for Josh Rosen, see what he can do, and if he turns out to be a complete bust, we need to get us that Trevor Lawrence too, and we'd be lined up for that if we're playing badly the next 2 years. So very much planning for the future. I like what they're doing. There's still a lot of gaps. Foundation to me is set, and Josh Rosen can develop. I think he'll have a lot more success there. I think this is overall still a more functioning organization than Arizona, and he's probably in a better spot than he was before.
Yep, I agree with you.
Pick number 14, now we have your Atlanta Falcons selecting Chris Lindstrom, offensive lineman out of Boston College. I'm going to go right ahead and say that guy was not one of my top 5 O-linemen.
No.
I did not see him go in the first round. My grade is a C+. Listen, you got Jawan Taylor still on the board. So you got Garrett Bradbury still on the board as an interior offensive lineman. Chris Lindstrom was not my first choice here. The Falcons thought that he fits their scheme, what they're doing, their offense very well. I'm curious to hear your view on that one though, because you definitely know more about this specific situation.
As much I do agree with the Falcons for going offensive line. This is not the guy they needed to pick here, and I hate to be critical of my favorite team. I give it a B-, and I almost said a C+, because the guy was not rated to even go in the first round, or at least late in the first round in some of the pre-rankings. I don't know. I want to say he's going to be great, and they knew what they were doing. Thomas Dimitroff, I hope you knew what you were doing here.
Definitely a surprising pick. We'll see where they go. Pick 15, another heavy hitter. Redskins select Dwayne Haskins, quarterback out of Ohio State, who was projected to go as high as to the New York Giants, who then opted for Daniel Jones. To me, this is a B- grade for Dwayne Haskins. Again, there's better quarterbacks on the board. To me, two of them.
Yeah,
Drew Lock's still my
that's
number
what
one.
I was gonna say. I would have went with Drew Lock here if I was the Redskins. I mean, more comparable to Alex Smith, which Kirk Cousins, but.
And here's the big deal, and here's why exactly, right? The Redskins are the one team, if I had to pick any team, that need a quarterback that starts day one this season. And Dwayne Haskins is, of the entire class, one of the furthest people from actually being at that spot. If you look at, he's a raw prospect. He's got all the talent in the world. Raw prospect, though. He's coming out of college as a bit of a Colin Kaepernick. He's got all the physical talent. Can he translate, and can he do it quickly, because he'll have a lot of pressure on him right away. Drew Lock is one of the most pro-style and pro-ready quarterbacks of the class. So I would have liked that pick better. Again, they went with the Haskins route. They were probably happy that they got him, because his talent is definitely...
One thing I want to say...
in terms of quarterbacks,
one thing I want to say about Haskins. I saw some people listing him as a mobile quarterback, and I don't see it. I mean, he's not necessarily the typical pocket passer, but he's not really that mobile. I mean, from the Ohio State, he's a first or 1 year starter at Ohio State, and really.
Does my memory serve me correct that he ran a 5-second 40?
Yeah, it was slow. Yeah.
At the draft, he was slow.
He's definitely not
fast.
mobile.
You got offensive linemen running faster than that. I ran a 5 flat.
I could probably run
I'm
I'm
a defensive tackle. Wow. So yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't call him mobile. No. I know he's got the arm talent. He's got the physicality. He has the potential. Day one starter. Tough. I have my doubts. Pick number 16, the Panthers select, like exactly the way I predicted it in my mock draft, Brian Burns. I think this is one of the easier picks of the round. This made too much sense not to happen, and this was one of the ones that I was pretty sure that it was going to happen. This is an A for me. Very simple, very straightforward. They fill the need with a good player that fits their scheme, that can rush the passer. You got imposing people. You got Luke Kuechly swarming over top. That guy is not going to... Brian Burns said is not going to see a lot of double teams, and he's going to be able to play toward his strength.
I agree, and they needed offensive line help. They need to get some coverage for Cam, because he is beaten up a good bit at this point. You know, we saw his arm fading at the end of the year, and it's from those hits he's taken. Of course, he is a mobile quarterback, and he's a giant man.
He puts himself out there too.
Yeah,
he deals out.
Not necessarily an
RG3
situation, because Cam is much bigger than that. He's the size of a linebacker.
Cam's not playing until he's 40. I can tell you that much.
Yeah. So
But that's his play style, though.
I agree. I'll give him an A-. The only reason I didn't go higher, because this kid is 21. He's a young guy, and we're going to see what he can do. But I agree with you. Best player available for that position.
Put on a lot of weight. Ever since the combine, he came in, I believe, out of college at below 200 pounds. That's not acceptable for a defensive end. I think he put on a good, nice 20-25 pounds. And probably will continue to do so, because he can afford to pack some more pounds on that frame and be more of a threat in the run. Because if you're getting out muscled by offensive tackles by over 100 pounds, you can't play against. You just can't deal with that. So that was one of the biggest concerns of him, but he's working on that, and it's looking pretty good. Number 17, moving on, we got the New York Giants up again, selecting Dexter Lawrence out of Clemson. Another Clemson defensive lineman, another interior lineman. I think this is a decent pick. They could have probably had Daniel Jones here, to be honest.
They could have.
And scooped up Josh Allen before and with the first pick. But again, they kind of wanted to make sure that they got their guy.
Well, and
then now they're strengthening up their line.
This is the reason why people claim that the Giants lost the draft, and I kind of agree with them. This is another look at that championship bias. You know, they were looking at it. I have to have one of the winners. You know, Dexter Lawrence actually had some issues. He had a performance-enhancing issue there. They were taking Ostarine down there in Clemson, and 3 of those guys got popped before the playoffs. Overall, this could work out for them, but I'm going to give them a C, because I think they're just... this is the second flub of the draft for the Giants to me.
not sure if I mentioned it. I gave him a B- for this pick, so definitely a bit questionable. Vikings up next, picking Garrett Bradbury, offensive lineman out of NC State. I graded this a B+ on the spot because I thought, well, Juwan Taylor's still there, but they're very different players, and I agree that the Vikings need more interior help, so I'm going to actually bump this up to an A. This is a rock solid pick to me, and a pretty easy one to make. You're holding on to Kirk Cousins, makes sense. You're still very much invested in that, which is good. By the way, quarterback needs more than 1 year of trust and confidence to develop. That's a piece of knowledge that is lost on a big parts of the NFL in the modern days. A lot, unfortunately. I like the direction that they're going, and this is a rock solid pick that is going to help them out for a long time.
I can agree with you. Center is the most important position on the field to me. You know, some people will say guard, but I say center. This guy is he's not a giant. He's 6'3". He is 306 pounds, but he's kind of small for a center in the NFL. Overall, solid. Yeah, I can say solid pick, definitely.
He's a new school guy too. He knows how to work against good feet. This is kind of the stigma that's been attached to the offensive line for a while. Your tackles are your pass blockers, and your inside guys are your run blockers. But you got so many guys these days, interior defensive linemen, 3 techniques that can just flat out rush the passer. So you can't get away with spotty footwork at the guard position anymore. It just doesn't work. And Garrett Bradbury is definitely a guy of the future there, who's gonna be a solid rock for that line. Titans up next, in their home state, Jeffrey Simmons out of Mississippi State, the defensive tackle. I think we can agree that his talent is definitely through the roof. I gave it a B because this is a bit of a suspicious pick to me. I think the Titans fans were expecting a bit more of a bombshell. This is kind of around the time where the name DK Metcalf started getting dropped more, and he's still on the board. I think this is probably a better pick than Metcalf, all things considered, but it's a bit of a reach for a defensive lineman that wasn't in my top 5 and wasn't in many people's top 5 at 19 overall.
I agree. The fans probably wanted to go with the more sexy pick of DK Metcalf, who was a combine show out. He was a workout warrior, as they say. He's had a few character issues and a few injuries in college coming out of Mississippi State, which that team did not set the world on fire. But defensive tackle, not a bad position for the Titans. They did need some help there. I'm going to go right now with an A-. I was going to say A, solid A, but I'm dropping that down to an A- because it is a solid pick, as you say, but they could have done better.
Broncos up, and this is the point where I'm going to eat some shit right now because, not because of me evaluating this pick so badly, but so they picked Noah Fant out of Iowa, and I thought it was being funny. I wrote down on Twitter, that's a weird way to spell Drew because I was like, you got to pick Drew Lock at this point, right? You got the best quarterback available, and turns out John Elway, for some reason, turns out John Elway was playing 5-dimensional underwater chess while I was playing checkers without the pieces, because he'd set up, I'm gonna get me the best quarterback tomorrow. I don't even need to do it right now. So massive win. A guy like Noah Fant is one of the better players available. Like, this would have been the point where I would have walked into my own trap that I criticize so much, which is reaching to the stars for a quarterback when best player available is totally fine. This is an A. This is a flat out an A for me. This is a very, very good pick, and considering the way that the draft turned out to go further, makes it all the better. So this very, very good pick. They did it the exact right way. I would have done it incorrectly. Hindsight's 2020. Good pick.
I'm with you. I would have done the same thing. I would have said Drew Lock. That's our man. He fits our style, and we're definitely not keeping Flacco for more than a year or two. So Drew Lock would have been it, but overall, like, if I was looking at the draft and I saw this, I would have gave it like a C, maybe a C-. But they have been lacking at tight end for quite some time, and knowing the overall scheme of it and how they ended up getting Drew Lock in the end, I'm giving it a B+ because that really worked out in their favor.
And here's probably the pick that surprised me the most out of the entire day. It's not Cleveland Farrell. Kyler Murray wasn't really a surprise, but that shocked me the most. Darnell Savage out of Maryland, the safety, going to the Packers as the first, and get this, the first defensive back off the board in this entire draft. Oof. I mean, this is a reach. We can agree on this. This is a reach and a half. This guy, you better see something in this guy.
And they traded up to get him.
And and you better not seeing a Cam Chancellor in this guy. But there has to be something there that apparently they know that no one else does. And if not, this is a very questionable pick. I graded it with a C. It's very much a risky pick. There's a good chance it might turn out well, and they were just ahead of the pack, and he actually plays up to that standard. But pick number 21 overall. Until I've seen him take the field and fulfill that role, I can't stand for that and call that a good pick.
Jesus, I think this guy would have fell to the third round, to tell you the truth. Darnell Savage. I mean, Maryland is not known for defensive backs at all, which that may not be any diss toward him, but he was not ranked anywhere near the first round. And
now I know that safety class was
horrid.
Paper thin. It was not a good safety class. It was terrible, actually. But that's no reason to overspend like crazy, because the only position where that's remotely justified is quarterback.
You traded up to get a third round guy. I was about to say third day, second day, but third round guy.
Just trade the pick away. Select a solid player. Pick an offensive lineman. Go. Greg Little is still there. Andre Dillard is still there. Titus Howard, and very, very suspicious. Speaking of Andre Dillard, he goes at 22 to the Philadelphia Eagles, offensive lineman out of Washington State. This guy has all the technique that you want to play tackle in the NFL. Now, we know that Jason Peters isn't going to play forever. He's been fighting with some injuries. Lane Johnson is one of the best right tackles in the league. And Andre Dillard is going to fit that team very, very well. Not a lot of glaring needs on that roster. It's still one of the stronger teams in the league since that Super Bowl run. And I think this is very much a good solid brick to build on. And the Super Bowl window, the window of winning for the Eagles, is wide open still with Carson Wentz coming back. I give this an A. I think this was a perfect pick. It might not have been my best overall offensive lineman still available, but fits the Eagles. Does what he's supposed to do.
I agree. Solid pick. They need Carson Wentz to stay healthy, and the way you do that is to protect Carson Wentz. We don't need any more ACL tears out of Carson Wentz. I think Carson Wentz is the future of the NFL, and he's going to be great for a long time to come. Let's get him some help. Solid pick, man. I'm going to give it an A-.
Couldn't agree more. Pick number 23. I had the Texans go offensive lineman, so I wasn't wrong with it. I didn't exactly have Titus Howard in my view, though. I had him go Greg Little, who is a guy, by the way, I thought was a first round talent since he came out of high school. I don't know about you, but I love to watch the All-American game, the Under Armour All-American game, and the kind of the opening and all those competitions that they do with the best top 300 recruits out of high school every year. And Greg Little, I believe, came out in 2016, 2015, or 2016 is what it was. And he destroyed people back then. I think he was number one recruit in the country, if I'm not mistaken, or very close to the top at least. And I thought he was a first-round talent. I still think he is. And the Texans disagreed. They took Titus Howard out of Alabama State, who is very much a solid player, big dude. It's a B- for me. There was a better option in my opinion, but I understand addressing the position.
I'm going with a C because, of course, they were picking from. Man, it's hard. This guy is another guy who could have went to the third round. You know what? I'm going to give it a C because there were better offensive tackles out there. This guy, you could have gotten him the second, maybe even third day.
Sometimes I just like to take a bit of a risk. Like, you want your guy, but in all likelihood you can get him later. And people like to play it safe, which, okay, you've got plans for the future. You're a professional. That's why you run a professional sports team, not me. But I don't do this. If I don't have anything else to pick, no other need to address, I'll trade the pick away because there's people who want quarterbacks still. And they pay for that. So 24, Raiders up on the clock once again. They picked Josh Jacobs out of Alabama, the running back. Now this to me is a grade A pick. I have projected this exact pick to happen. I think it's very much a fit that was very, very good for the team and player. And I had projected this in my mock draft. They needed to replace a running back. They needed to find a suitable player for that position. Josh Jacobs is the best in a pretty lackluster draft class, if we're being honest. Not very top heavy, but the one guy that is justified to go in the first round, and that's a good pick.
Yeah, I agree. They kind of redeemed themselves on this one. Josh Jacobs actually was the number 1 at Alabama for a lot of his career there. And you know what? I'm going to give it a B+, because with Marshawn Lynch retiring, they need a running back badly.
Mm-hmm.
And
correct.
Yeah, Gruden, I don't know that he knows what he's doing, but I will agree with him with this pick, because he went right where he was projected to be. I think it was probably best player available at this point.
Yeah, I think for Gruden, we're because of his accolades, we're alleging him to know more of what he's doing than he actually does. At this
maybe
point.
So.
A lot of points, but we'll see how it turns out. We'll get some views at that in Hard Knocks too. Yeah. Pick number 25, Baltimore Ravens and Marquise Hollywood Brown out of Oklahoma. I had this graded as an A, and I'm going to go up and grade this as an A+. This man fits that team perfectly. He's an impact player day one. You could make an argument that he's the best skill position player in this draft. To me, also the best player from Oklahoma in this draft, which that was a loaded offense, so that does say something. I love Marquise Brown. I think he's everything you need in a receiver. He's incredibly track speed, got great cuts, great moves, secure hands. He's not the tallest, obviously, not the jump ball guy, but he's going to be a difference maker. And I really like what they're doing.
Now, Marquise Hollywood Brown is 5'9", 166 pounds. Now, that air raid offense over at Oklahoma, he was an integral part, playing with Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield. This guy can go get the ball no matter where you throw it. I agree. I really like this pick, man. I'm gonna.
Yeah, you need this man in a dynamic offense.
Yes. And
a dynamic offense is what Lamar Jackson will run.
Definitely dynamic. It's akin to what they were doing with Kyler Murray over there. Although Lamar does not have the arm that Kyler Murray has, but if you take a chance to throw it downfield, there's a good chance that Hollywood's going to go get it. So I'm going to give it. I'm going to give it a solid A.
Yeah, very, very much, very great pick. A+ to me, actually, and we got another A+ right at the back of it. Pick number 26, Montez Sweat to the Redskins, defensive end out of Mississippi State. I had this guy as my third edge rusher and a top 10 player overall in this draft. Had him going to the Buccaneers in my mock draft at 5. I understand the health concerns, but good God, this guy's a freak. He's got the physical tools of a Jadeveon Clowney, of a Myles Garrett, and those were first overall picks in years past on the same position. His pro day, his Senior Bowl has been absolutely crazy. His combine, his freaking nature. So I can see this guy being. I mean, he's got a pretty low floor, but a very, very high ceiling. And I like the gamble. I really do. I think this pick is more than value for the Redskins to go that route. They got their quarterback in the house. So I love Montez Sweat as a pick, and it's an A+ for me.
I agree. I'm not quite going A+. I'm going to go solid A again. This kid out of Mississippi State, Montez Sweat, I was so surprised that he was falling in the draft. I expected him to go in the top 10 at least.
Any day now. You see people trading up. You see the Packers trading up. I think maybe Broncos. You got people trading up. I was like, oh yeah, this is it now. Surely this is it. And it's not. It's never it. So at some point, the Redskins decided to end his waiting time.
It's a solid pick. Good playmaker. He fell right in their laps. Definitely an A.
Pick number 27, the Raiders select Jonathan Abram, the safety out of Mississippi State. So back-to-back Mississippi State guys. Another reach at defensive backfield. Who would have What would you have thought if someone told you that the first two defensive backs to go in the draft would be safeties, and they both go in the first round?
I did not expect it at all. No, definitely.
Weird guy. So I got a B on it. I see how it's a position of need. I think there are better players available. There's cornerbacks available that are just better players. I know you want safety, and this is a decent pick. Again, potentially a little bit of a reach.
Definitely is. And when Gruden picks Josh Jacobs and you're like, hey, he may know what he's doing, then he picks a safety that could have went in day 2. So I don't know about Gruden, man. This guy is not a bad safety, but you didn't have to reach for him.
Yep. And speaking of reaching, we have 2 more reaches coming up back to back right now. Pick number 28, first of all, Notre Dame defensive tackle Jerry Tillery to the Chargers. Now, I know a lot of people like this guy a lot more than the average sort of consensus on him was, and I can see why. He can make plays for sure. I got a B- on him because to me it's just an unnecessary bit of a gamble there. As a Chargers, you can just pick a more solid player in that spot. You just lost Jason Verrett in free agency to the Niners, so maybe go cornerback. You got the full variety. You got Greedy Williams, DeAndre Baker, all still available to you, and make a replacement there. They decided to go defensive tackle, which is okay. And Jared Tillery, if it's your guy, you go get him. To me, not the best value, so it's a B-.
I agree with you. I'm going to give it a solid B. Defensive tackle is not a position they were hurting for at all. The Chargers have a great defense altogether. He's a great guy from what I understand. That he's a good character, which may work out well at the Chargers.
That's a plus for sure,
when's the last time you heard any controversy coming out of the Chargers camp?
Exactly, right. So that's definitely if it's a team. Yeah. I'm not gonna deny that. And then we have LJ Collier, defensive end out of TCU to the Seahawks at 29. This is also a bit of a head scratcher to me because you can't be serious if you think that this guy's gonna come in and replace Frank Clark, because he's not. So if you thought you were gonna trade Frank Clark away to Kansas City and then bring in this dude to replace him with, I don't see that happening anywhere near the first couple of seasons. I don't think that's going to be his ceiling or anywhere close to that. This, you've said this a couple times before. He's a second, if at all, maybe probably more like a third round talent, and you're picking him at the bottom of the first, which is just unnecessary. Like, you've traded picks before. If you don't want to make a pick, they've traded the pick before. If you don't want to make a pick, you don't see a player fit, don't make the pick. Again, DK Metcalf is available. They ended up getting him later, which was smart, but if I told you like LJ Collier, Darnell Savage are going before DK Metcalf,
I never would have expected
it's a fun
not
house,
at
man.
all.
It's a circus sometimes.
And I can't say this is.
But overall, this pick, it's a C.
Yeah, I can't say this is your anti-Seahawks bias speaking, but there's definitely a reach. He could have went a day or two later.
Well, I'll give credit when it's due. Like the Metcalf pick is an A+ for me later.
See, I'm still open on. The jury's still out for me on DK Metcalf. Was it just his Columbine, or is he really? I mean, he's a physical freak, that's for sure.
But they got him so late.
Yeah, that's true. And I think
they got him at a spot where like 7 receivers went before him.
I think that's why, though. Teams are learning that you can't just go for the Columbine. I mean, combine freak, or the Columbine.
Yeah,
freak.
you don't go for the Columbine, dude. Exactly. I don't want nothing to do with these people. No, that's correct. Got the Giants at the clock one more time, selecting DeAndre Baker, so first cornerback off the board from Georgia. This is a good pick to me. I got an A-. You got your full selection off cornerbacks. I thought they were going to go defensive back at the bottom of the first round here. They did do that, and they fill a position of need.
I'm going to give it an A, to tell you the truth, and not just because I love DeAndre Baker, but it's because I love DeAndre Baker. This guy may not be the greatest interview in the world. Now, if you watch his interviews, you're going to think, maybe he's not the most brilliant mind on the field, but this guy, he came into Georgia as a 3-star, as a matter of fact, and he proved himself, improved himself. Won the Drim Thrope Award, as a matter of fact, this past season. Was the top cornerback in the country. I really do like this pick for the Giants. I don't know what they were doing, taking their quarterbacks or early, but I like this pick.
They could have easily had it the other way around. It would have probably worked the same way. Getting back once more to your Atlanta Falcons, and I'm going to have to disappoint you. Another questionable offensive lineman to me. Caleb McGarry out of Washington. To me, it's a C-. Sort of like Chris Lindstrom. He's just not really, he's not the next man up. You still got offensive linemen there. You still got Juwan Taylor there. So,
and
very questionable. 2 offensive linemen, 2 reaches for offensive linemen in the first round. Seems tough.
It hurts me, but I can't disagree with you.
Like they're very much pretending they went 14-2 last season.
Well, I mean, it was
like there's nothing else to address.
He is a giant man, if nothing else. I mean, you know, they're.
But this line better be good.
The right side better be good. That's for dang sure.
Yeah, they invested a lot of capital into this. And then 32 closing it out. The Patriots didn't go crazy like I predicted them to or wished for them to. They selected N'Keal Harry, the wide receiver out of Arizona State, who was a top 5 receiver to me, by the way. I think I had him 5th overall among receivers. And I think this is a good pick. I think he fits what their Patriots doing really well. He's a worker. He's a dog. He's going to scrap and fight and claw, which is exactly what you got to do in that offense. He's going to turn into a playmaker just by virtue of being in that system. He's going to get better. Every player is better from just being in that system, that environment of New England. I think he fits the style that they're doing. I'm seeing some Edelman in this guy. Fierce blocker, fierce competitor, and plays taller and with more size than he necessarily has.
Yeah, I guess he's really going to start off being the replacement for Hogan, I would imagine. Which they were not getting any production out of him. They should get much more production out of N'Keal Harry than they were getting out of Hogan, who was just a big letdown if you play fantasy. But Edelman needed help out there. And with Gronk being gone, they were hurting for receivers in any form or fashion. So...
And N'Keal Harry's
I'll give it a B plus, sure.
Nothing flashy, but New England doesn't need flashy players.
No,
they've seen that. We've seen that a lot.
These non-flashy players, yes.
And those spending even a first overall pick on a receiver doesn't really happen that much. They did it on Gronk, but other than that, they'll find those gems, those guys that people necessarily haven't looked at that much, that just go under the radar. Your Edelmans. And they turn them into all-stars, into fantastic players, potential future Hall of Famers and Super Bowl MVPs.
They'd love to take WR3s and make them WR1s.
Yeah. And that's the strength of that system, and I like where N'Keal Harry's going. That concludes the first topic for us for today. Been a long one, but I think we've been agreeing on a lot of things. Most of the stuff that I evaluated during the process, I'm still sticking with. I'm going to be very interested in seeing some of these people actually take the field on day one. Kyler Murray is a lot of question marks to me, but specifically the other quarterbacks, who's going to get a start, how are the Giants going to handle the Daniel Jones situation. And I'm also excited on the impact of all those defensive linemen and the pass rushers, because it's going to be a very fast and dynamic league.
Yes, I agree with you fully.
So what do you say we get into topic number 2? Switch sports, go to basketball, and talk about the big name that's currently making the headlines in the NBA, and Kawhi Leonard being a free agent now, officially decided. There's a couple of teams that's kind of come into conversation a little bit, and I think it has a lot to do with his mindset. Like, how does he see himself at this point? Kawhi Leonard just came off of winning the Finals MVP, beating the unbeatable Warriors, although be it injured. Bringing the first ever NBA championship to Toronto, and he's got to be feeling good about himself right now. He's feeling it. He's got a pretty good boost of confidence going. So is Kawhi Leonard still looking at this situation as, I'm gonna go join up with someone else? I'm gonna go to the Lakers. Let's just say the Lakers for sensational sakes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to the Lakers, join these other superstars, and make that super team. I don't necessarily believe that that's potentially the case, because if you go to the Lakers, you're playing second, potentially third fiddle behind LeBron and Anthony Davis.
Yes.
And I think Kawhi is, at this point, he's putting himself on the same pedestal with guys like Kevin Durant and LeBron, saying that I'm the guy that people are going to come and join because I'm that good. I'm that superstar that's going to build that team. I'm the recruiter. and there's a couple of destinations where that could very much be the case. Toronto being one of them. Of course, the Raptors still have good chances of retaining Kawhi Leonard, with a very small little bit of an incentive of $50 million, which is considerable. But I think that the other team, I'm looking at two teams. I'm buying the Clippers. I really am.
Yeah.
I think he wants to go to LA. He's been wanting to go to LA for a while. But the Lakers might be too much of a circus for him right now, and he might think that he's not going to get the full show. And coming off of the performance that he's had, he wants to be the main attraction. He wants to be the featured guy. And the Clippers can very much provide him with that.
Yeah,
because you'll retain Patrick. Keep going.
Oh, I was going to say, he does want to be the show. I agree with that fully. But he also wants load management. And that's been an issue for him. I mean, he's missed like 95 games in the past 2 seasons.
And that's the tough part to get to if you're going to be the guy. Because you can't be LeBron in Cleveland or back in Miami or now in LA saying, I'll just play every other game. Doesn't work like that. He'll play 38 minutes every night. And Kawhi is not going to do that, obviously. We know that. So
yes.
He probably needs that other guy. And in Toronto, who's that other guy right now? There really isn't one. Kyle Lowry, but there's not that other superstar. For the Clippers, you have Patrick Beverley, given that you can retain him, and you still have a spot open for potentially a max deal to bring in your Kevin Durant, your Kyrie Irving, to make a pretty good impact. And of course, Kevin Durant can't play this season, so that's something you got to consider. Also, you're giving up another $50 million. After giving up $30 million, leaving San Antonio for Toronto last season. So, what's kind of your favorite there? Where are you going with this? What's Kawhi's decision process looking like for you?
Well, I don't know exactly what he's thinking. I know what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, why not make that superstar trio complete and go to the Lakers, man? That's what the world wants to see right now. Now,
Is that what the world wants to see?
I want to see it. I would think everybody wants to see it. Wouldn't you want to see another one of these dominant trios just take the league by storm? I'm
not sure if I want to see this.
Yeah.
I think LeBron and Anthony Davis is going to be enough to take the league by storm. Add to that Kyle Kuzma. I mean, if Kawhi were to join him and they all stayed healthy, I think they're prohibitive favorites of winning the title next year. They right now are the odds-on favorite to win the title next year, given all the injuries that the Warriors are going to be dealing with during the regular season. But I think that's where Kawhi is at mentally anymore. Last season, if you told him, join LeBron at the Lakers, we're recruiting Anthony Davis next year, we're winning titles potentially. But now he's not seeing himself as a second guy anymore, or as a featured guy. I think he's feeling like Kyrie Irving felt when he left LeBron. I'm my own guy. I can be the guy. I can be the number one. And
how'd that work out for him?
It didn't work out that well, and that's why Kyrie isn't crawling back to LA to LeBron. He's gonna stay at the East Coast. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think a dark horse.
He might come to the Clippers.
That's possible. I think the number one right now probably is the Clippers, man. But the dark horse in this whole thing, I think, if you take Toronto out of this, because they still have a legitimate shot, but the Mavericks.
Right. I'm not buying the Mavericks.
You don't?
I'm gonna hit that quite after that. I really don't buy the Mavericks rumor. That would be a major surprise to me. I know you want to be the guy who recruits and rebuilds, but but not that deep. I mean, and Texas. I mean, you just left Texas. You wanted to go to a bigger. You wanted to make Showtime. You wanted to go to the big cities. You want to go to LA.
He accomplished that. He got the ring for it.
Yeah, he got the ring, but in Canada.
Yeah.
I think he's see, at basketball there's this big thing, even more so than in other sports, called the mogul phase. Once you've basically done it, like you've had all the athletic success, now it's about brand building. Now it's about you've seen this in LeBron. It's about going to the market, being in LA, being conventionally famous. This is about Space Jam 2. It's about marketing your stuff. It's about acting roles and future. You're furthering your career. I'm not sure how Kawhi Leonard sees himself in that process. I think he still wants to win, obviously. I'm not doubting that. He still wants to. be at a competitive team and win. Now, the best situation to do that and to be that guy is Toronto, because that was obviously what and clearly what happened to him exactly last season. He was the central piece, and he did make it happen, and the people love him. He's a god in Toronto now.
Mm-hmm. He definitely is, and they are probably praying to every deity they know of to keep him at this point.
For sure.
I just see, man, if he went to the Lakers, you got Kuzma, you got LeBron. Man, they could be the dream team, you know?
Yeah, that would be crazy. That's basically an all-star team.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
You've seen that like 2-3 years ago. That's what the all-star team looked like. That's insane. I don't really see that as too realistic. I also don't want to see it, to be honest. That would probably just be too much for me. No,
you really don't want to see that.
See, here's the thing. I also am a Warriors fan, right? Yeah. So you gotta kind of be thinking from that perspective too. Like, how much are the Lakers gonna do?
Oh, they're gonna dethrone at some point for sure. I mean, maybe even without Kawhi, but
it's getting tough. And we don't have KD, we don't have Clay available for the most part of next season. It's gonna be a dogfight now. The Warriors are no longer the easy favorites to win the title, the untouchables. So I like the Clippers.
What if he joined Giannis with the Bucks?
Milwaukee?
Yeah, I'm just throwing that out there. I don't think it's likely, but
after just sweeping the Bucks after being down 0-2.
Yeah, I mean, stranger things have happened. I think sometimes there is
but Milwaukee just is not the market. It's just not the market where he wants to be.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's a really long shot. I don't think it's gonna happen, but man, imagine
I'm not saying it's just not where he wants to be. He wants to be in LA.
Yeah.
I think even more so than he wants to be in New York. But Milwaukee, that's just not the place. You think, like, of course, Kareem comes to mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who got traded from the Bucks. So I'm not so sure that this. I think the Bucks are gonna be good enough, honestly, without Kawhi. I think they're gonna make waves in the East.
Well, they did well.
He's looking
for sure.
Yeah, sure. He's looking at the West Coast. I like the Clippers. And if he decides to stay in Toronto, that team's still gonna be good. You gotta have that in your mind also. If you're Kawhi, you can repeat in Toronto because you're not losing much. I think I think I said Danny Green is what their only other free agent, and other than that, the big contributors are still gonna be there. So Toronto's gonna be a good team, and maybe you just grab another star for that team, and make it happen. Definitely, you're definitely going to be the guy. You know that. You're going to be the featured guy.
Of course.
They're going to meet your expectations. They gave you everything that you wanted. Off time, load management, everything that you need. They've been super liberal treating you with the injuries, as the Spurs were not, and very much an improved situation. Is it the market that you want to be at? Is it LeBron's level of famous? I don't think it is, because it's still Toronto. And he's gonna have a good visit with the Clippers, and the Mavericks thing. I think is more of a shill than anything else. I don't think he takes this too seriously. I don't necessarily believe he wants to make big waves, but he wants it to be known that I'm the best player that's hitting the market this year. With Kevin Durant being hurt, that's a distinct possibility. And but that's an interesting point to get back though also quickly, because he's also gonna be on the look. Kevin Durant, how do you see his chances of actually staying in Golden State over the next couple of years?
It doesn't look promising right now. I mean,
doesn't look like he. He had some falling out with that team. It seemed like, or the team doctors, team management. I don't think he's. I think he's a little bit bitter about that injury, to be honest, because he was cleared to play by Golden State doctors. They told him, you can't injure this any worse than it is, when he had the tweaked Achilles, and now that cost him an entire year off of his prime. So
I think there's a good chance that Durant ends up with the Clippers.
I think so. Yeah, that was kind of the rumored idea, and Durant and Kawhi in LA is gonna be a hell of a show. If you retain your Patrick Beverly and you bring in potentially another star, but that will be a good show. This is going to be a bit of a test to his value, because how do people how do people see you right now? How to what degree are people willing to give you a max deal, knowing that you're gonna come in and not play a full season?
Exactly. Yeah, that load management.
Because the team that signs Kevin Durant this offseason isn't winning next year. So are you willing to tank that year down? That's kind of the question you got to ask yourself there. And if good offers don't come in, I think the Warriors have a chance of retaining him also, but they have to spend money on Klay Thompson. Needs to be given a max deal, which he's injured too, so that's some risk that they have to take, some future planning. Kevin Durant and Kawhi will be a great team together. The question is that what Kawhi wants? Is that what Kevin Durant wants? Because the Kevin Durant experiment, in his eyes, to the Warriors didn't really work out. I'm not so sure. He came to San Francisco to the Warriors expecting this is my team.
Yes.
This is going to be all about me. And to this day, people like Steph more than they do Kevin Durant. This is still Steph's team. And you had to share with people, which he hasn't experienced that much before. So a lot of these superstars that are still in their prime, still want to make their name in the all-time list, are looking to kind of really be the featured guy, the number one guy, and how those two would work together. Now, LeBron and Anthony Davis, I think, are going to work well together. I think it's very much going to be a passing of the torch situation in a couple of years. I'm not saying Anthony Davis is ever going to be LeBron in terms of the off the court guy, the character guy, media guy. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
But he's going to be an excellent player. They're both top 5 players in the league right now. For Kawhi, if he stays with the Raptors, that will definitely be a good thing for the Eastern Conference, though, because it's always been kind of the less talked about one. We've talked about the New York teams a little bit, but the big party has for such a long time has been in California when it comes to basketball. But I think that Kawhi will eventually end up in Los Angeles. To me, the Clippers right now are favored. But the Lakers thing, I know you really want it to happen, but to me, I don't really want to see this. I think it's gonna be bad enough the way it is.
Well, we saw the superstar over in football. We've seen the superstar team work out for the Rams pretty well. So I'm a fan of just, I don't know, just.
You like dominance.
Yes, I just want to. I mean, even if it's a short run, LeBron's not going to last that much longer. I just want to see.
I like it when it's the Warriors.
Oh, I bet.
But I don't need it to be another team in the West, fighting for that final spot. So, I mean, for sure they will. This is going to be a topic that's going to come along with us throughout the next months and into the next season, and we'll see how that stuff turns out. The Lakers are a great team now.
Yes.
The Warriors are still going to be good. They're no longer unbeatable. They're no longer untouchable, invincible. So it's going to be a more entertaining season for sure. Within it should be reasonably promptly that big wave of the NBA free agency, when July hits, when that big wave of trades and deals starts going down, and we'll see where Kawhi ends up. We'll see where Kyrie Irving ends up, and Kevin Durant. Those are kind of the big names out there, and we'll reassess the situation when we get there. But you want to hop into the last couple of topics there. This one that you suggested for number 3. So can you explain what you want to talk about?
Well, I want to talk about running back breakouts for the NFL this coming up season, because almost every season we see a couple, 2 to 3 running backs just break out and have monster seasons. I mean, we've seen it with Todd Gurley. We've seen it with
Leonard Fournette to a degree in his rookie season.
Fournette and his. You know what? This is a topic that I think about a lot. The sophomore slump for running backs is a real thing. I mean, we've seen it with Fournette. We saw it with Gurley. Well, even we can't say Alvin Kamara, but he did have a slight regression this past season.
See it with a lot of people. That's true.
Yeah, for sure. But I have 5 names that I want to bring up for possible.
All right, I got 3. So give me your list first, and then we'll see if we got any.
We may have some crossover here because one of these involves your favorite team.
I think I know who you're talking about, dude.
I bet you do. Number 5, I'm going to say Damian Williams. He's filling in for that Kareem Hunt role. And weeks 14 through 17, the guy was had 17 and a half attempts per game, 68 rushing yards per game, which is not an extremely high number, but 4.7 receptions per game. And he was averaging a touchdown per game during his time. Now, when he came over from Miami, we weren't expecting to see Damian Williams set the world on fire. But I think in this offense, in this Reed offense, he's going to do well. And I see him breaking out this season.
It's the offense that can stretch the field vertically if we've seen anything, and running backs like that. The more the field gets stretched, the more linebackers need to move, the better of a situation you have, and if the passing game is strong, you see it in New Orleans, for example, the running game is going to follow.
Yes.
Vice versa is also possible, but yeah, I do definitely like that pick.
All right, and number 4, he's almost a perennial breakout candidate, but he has been underutilized horribly in his first 4 seasons in the league. Derrick Henry.
Right.
Now, at the end of the season, he set the world on fire. They finally figured out, hey, we could use a running back in this system. And when they turned him loose, I believe he had 3 touchdowns in a game, 2 touchdowns in the next game. And I was debating on not making him number 4 because I see it. Well, I have to put him at number 4 because they could always revert back to the same old tactics and go, oh, we need Deion Lewis a little more, But Derrick Henry is definitely a breakout candidate for me this season. Number 3, I was debating on Sony Michel, but you know what? I'm not going with Sony Michel in this spot. I'm going with Kenyon Drake. Another team that under Adam Gase decided, we don't really need to use running backs here. They dropped Jay Ajayi and sent him up to the Eagles. But Kenyon Drake's definitely, he has the talent, he has the athleticism, he's good at breaking tackles. I definitely see him as a breakout candidate. My number 2, Marlon Mack. That is an outstanding offense in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
21 attempts per game. This is week 14 through 17 at the end of the season, which I like to gauge the last few games for my breakout candidates. 97 yards per game rushing, 4 touchdowns. Marlon Mack is definitely there. Now, we're going to get to number 1, and this is probably one you definitely agree with me on because Kyle Shanahan loves this guy. We're going with Tevin Coleman. And we are. We saw what he did with the Falcons. Last season was not his greatest accomplishment, but when he was utilized under the Shanahan offense, he was a great second running back to Devontae Freeman. Now, the only caveat I'll put in here is we still don't know if they're going with Tevin Coleman or Jerick McKinnon for the number 1 spot. And I do believe it's Tevin Coleman, though. And I think...
I do, yeah.
If they do go with Tevin Coleman, he is definitely the number 1 spot for a breakout candidate this season.
I do very much agree with Coleman. I do think he's going to end up fighting for the number 1 spot, and he's going to get the starter because he fits that offensive system so well. He has experience in it. To me, one of the most under-the-radar free agency signings, by the way. Some that I didn't even have too close of an eye on. We know because the 49ers did a lot on defense, obviously. D Ford, Kawhi Leonard, bringing in the big names. And then Tevin Coleman came around, and it was... At first, it was a bit of a, we already have good running backs. Got Jet McKinnon. You got Matt Breida, who kind of had a bit of a breakout last, who's also starting caliber running back, by the way.
I agree.
So that backfield is looking sneaky good.
The guy played through injury for half the season.
Yeah, and you know what Tevin Coleman, firsthand what he can do in an explosive offense in the passing game too.
Yes, he can.
And that's the big strength of making that happen. And I definitely do have him on my list too. I also have Kenyon Drake, like you mentioned. It seems he's pretty much it's shaping out that he's going to be the featured guy in Miami now. Yes. You got a new head coaching staff. You got Adam Gase out of town. You got Frank Gore now in Buffalo.
Yeah, Kalen Ballage is his only competition, and I don't see that as competition.
So he's going to get the lion's share of the carries there. playing with Josh Rosen presumably, so they're going to rely on the running game. He's had pretty good flashes last year, just increasing the number of carries, increasing his volume, which I think he's ready and prepared to do that. Very much a breakout candidate. Now, one guy that you didn't name that I still have on the list is Rashad Penny for the Seattle Seahawks.
Good one.
The reason for that being last year he was basically number 3 in the depth chart. He had to share a lot of carries. And now, kind of similar to Kenyon Drake, he's seeming to be shaping up to be that guy. And if that's the case, the offensive line, the running game in Seattle just got a lot better last year. Basically the turning point seemed to when they signed Dwayne Brown, and all of a sudden they started exploding. They were known as one of the worst offensive lines, even though their dominant years. The offensive line was going to be the weaker part.
Yes.
And when it started getting worse, that was one of the weakest points. And we talked about Russell Wilson constantly having to run around and not much of a running game happening. And that pretty much was 180 with that situation. Now the running game is looking pretty good. Their blocking is looking pretty good. They got good blocking tight ends also, and Rashad Penny is going to be the featured guy, along with Russell Wilson, and I think he's a pretty good candidate for breakout player as well. Now I'm curious to hear about this when we get closer to the season. I'm definitely gonna give me some fantasy rankings. You kind of got it because that's obviously your big expertise there.
Yes.
And you might be able to help a lot of people out with that quite a little bit. So if anyone is interested in that, by the way, let us know in the comments of this video. So Smokey will gladly do that. Maybe I can contribute to that a little bit also. But things like that are going to be important to note. And for running back specifically being one of the most important positions there. So I really like the inside. Really like the take. Love the Marlon Mack pick. I didn't address it yet. One guy that I didn't even consider that much because I thought he had a couple of breakout games last year already. Kind of a similar situation to Kenyon Drake. Frank Gore leaves, the veteran guy, and he's up in good shape to take the starting spot. And that's what he did. I think he's the right guy. I don't think they need anything else in Indianapolis. Very good offense, like you said. It's a very strong offense.
And that offensive line is explosive right now. So I don't see how he could fail, man. He's really top 2 candidate. Good. Yes,
gonna do very, very good. So let's close this out on a bit of a lighter note at the end. 4th topic, we have a little bit of a quiz, and I've explained to you how this works, but I'm just gonna explain this again. Which player would you choose to start your franchise today? I'm going to give you 2 players, and I'm going to have you pick. You starting a brand new franchise. This is the one guy that you get.
Yes.
To start that franchise out. Who's it going to be? First round is going to be Antonio Brown or George Kittle.
Wow, that is a great question. Jesus, that's hard hitting right there. Antonio Brown, the evergreen productive wide receiver, of course, and George Kittle is the new Gronk in my opinion. Wow. If I really had to choose between those two, you know what, tight end is underutilized in this league because I really think that tight ends could be used much more. I mean, we have the big 3 every season, and Kittle is one of those now. Gronk's gone. Kittle's going to be the number 1. I think he's going to overtake Travis Kelce this season. I'm going with Kittle. Antonio Brown brings an element to the locker room that you may not want, and I think he really does fit with the Raiders, though. I'll give you that. But
for better or for worse.
I'm going with George Kittle, though.
All right, and consider also Antonio Brown is on the wrong side of 30 at this point, so you get 4 years out of him, maybe. And George Kittle, he's a 10-year starter.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. He's got a good 10 years coming.
So Antonio Brown, obviously the receiver, the even bigger name, the top-notch, more established guy. I like the future-oriented pick there in Kittle for sure. Next matchup is gonna be another one that's very much hinging on the same scenario: Phillip Rivers or Lamar Jackson.
Oh wow! Now Phillip Rivers, if you go with him, you definitely have the accuracy to think about. Lamar Jackson, not much of a passer, but he will get you some yardage with his feet. That's for sure. Now we've seen this with RG3, so it's a scary proposition if you go with Lamar Jackson, and he's going to be running that much. I know they talked about bringing in Paul Johnson, who was a military coach, and he spent his last 10 years, I believe it was, with Georgia Tech. They brought him in because they want to start running that triple option up there in Baltimore, which would be perfect for Lamar Jackson, coming out of that Petrino system, which I hate. Petrino. Bobby Petrino is a plague on football, and I will be glad if he never gets back into football. But man, that is so. How many years we got left with Phillip? 3 maybe. If he's gonna pull the Brady, we might get 4 or 5 out of him. I love Phillip Rivers, probably my second favorite quarterback in the league. Definitely dependable. If you see, then you bring in the question of if you're going to tank a season when Phillip Rivers is done, and get a first-round pick. But I think to get those 3-4 years out of Rivers, I'm going to go with Rivers.
I would actually agree with this. I think greatness at the quarterback position is too valuable to pass on, even if it's just a couple of years, because whenever you have Phillip Rivers on your team, you know your Super Bowl window is open. And with Lamar Jackson, that's not the case, and you don't know if that's going to be the case. So I do agree. Another one is also going to be quarterbacks: Cam Newton or Carson Wentz.
Cam Newton or Carson Wentz. Wow, these are very comparable guys when you think about it. Carson Wentz, a little better arm than Cam Newton, especially Cam Newton in his condition these days. Both of them are really big guys playing quarterback, and they both are very mobile. And that was underrated in Carson Wentz coming into the league. He is very, very mobile, and he proved that. He did have the ACL tear a couple seasons ago because he is a mobile quarterback, and he was doing everything it took to get that touchdown when he basically got helicoptered and blew out that ACL. You know what? I'm going with Carson Wentz, though. Cam Newton, he's not in the best condition, and Carson Wentz, he's had an injury, but Carson Wentz is the future over Cam Newton.
I'd also roll the dice on Carson here, like the pick. Of course, Cam Newton. It's weird that you'd say that, but the safer pick is Cam Newton, and you know that he hasn't gotten that hurt so far. He's played more seasons at an acceptable level, and he's an established player, former MVP. He can do it. But Carson Wentz to me is still the future. The kicker, of course, being he's coming off those injuries.
Yes.
But from what we've seen of him so far, which is by no means is a huge sample size, but what we've seen is absolute greatness, and I'd also go with him. Next, we have a pair of brothers, Nick Bosa or Joey Bosa.
Wow. That's a good one too, man. You know what? Nick is unproven yet in the NFL, of course, being a second draft pick this season. I know you love the 49ers, man, and I do love the Chargers, probably one of my top 5 favorite teams. I'm going with Joey. He has proven himself to be outstanding in this league, and Nick Bosa is still, Nick, still up in the air.
Exactly. I would actually put all the homerism aside, and I would agree with you on this pick. I think here's the thing, right? You know that both those guys tend to be a little bit injury prone. They're very similar players. You know this.
Of course.
And the argument that you made is correct. Joey Bosa has proven himself. He's played for a couple of years. He's been good. He's been little hurt so far, and I don't think the difference is big enough. I know that with Nick Bosa, you might have a guy whose ceiling is just a slight bit higher than Joey, but at the end of the day, I think their careers in the NFL are going to be so similar that there's no reason for me not to pick the little bit more safe pick of the established guy, because you're picking between basically the same person there.
Yeah, basically.
For the most part, in terms of playing style. They're so similar to each other. So I'll take the established guy. Then we have, this one I do like also. Todd Gurley and James Conner.
Wow. There's been a lot of talk about Todd Gurley this offseason. Is he still healthy? I mean, obviously he wasn't at the end of the season. They've been talking about that arthritic knee, which he injured his last year at UGA. He had to sit out the last of the season, I believe. When he went to the Rams, he sat out the first 4 or 5 games because he was still recovering from surgery on that knee. When he came back, he was extremely explosive. He quickly established himself as the number 1 running back in the league. There was his sophomore slump, as I spoke about earlier. But can we chalk that up to Todd Gurley, or can we chalk that up to Jeff Fisher? Which exactly. I would attribute that to Jeff Fisher. Mm-hmm. James Conner, he was great coming out of Pitt. James Conner does seem more like he is I don't want to say a victim, but he is a product of that system that he's in. Pittsburgh has a great offensive line, and they've proven that they can plug and play running backs at any time. And we saw it with D'Angelo Williams filling in for Le'Veon Bell and put out pretty much the exact same production that Le'Veon Bell was doing. And then James Conner steps in that role and almost puts out the same production as Le'Veon Bell. Now, I'm not saying James Conner is a Le'Veon Bell. It's the system that is causing it. But that is so tough because we don't know what Todd Gurley's going to be like this season. And if I had to choose right now, wow, this is almost a coin flip at this point. If I saw Todd Gurley play one more game, this would be much easier to make this decision. But you know what? I'm going to go with Todd Gurley, and just I'm going to go under the assumption that they are just preserving Todd Gurley rather than it's all of his own stability that is causing his downplay right now.
I'll also go with Todd Gurley. I agree with you on this. Here's the deal. You're choosing between the more safe, good player or the higher risk, potentially transcendentally great player. I'd rather have 2 to 3 years of Todd Gurley than 7 or 8 of James Conner right now. Because that's how the NFL works. Running backs tend to be replaceable. There's no team with bad running backs. Everyone can have a good running back. There are plenty, I almost wanted to say. So I'll take Todd Gurley. I'll take the shot at absolute greatness, and that's gonna be worth the gamble for me. I got three more pairings.
Okay.
The next one is gonna be this is also a tough one to think about. It's Aaron Donald or Kirk Cousins.
Oh wow, that's different ends of the spectrum right there. Aaron Donald, probably, as the accolades he's getting right now, probably the best player in the NFL at this time. And we saw what he contributed to that Rams system, along with Ndamukong Suh and others.
Now, this is really the question: is great player, top 5 player, or average quarterback? And where's the value in the NFL?
Well, I may be a little higher on Kirk Cousins than you are. He still has that potential to break out and become an elite quarterback. I haven't seen anything that tells me that it's not possible for him to become elite.
Let me ask you a question then. How many players do you think can be in the elite tier before it becomes pretty meaningless?
Well, I know for so many years people like to say, "Oh, there's only Brady, Rodgers, and
Drew Brees."
But there's it's almost like a 1A. I would give those guys, especially for the past 5 seasons or so, those guys are the 1A. But there's also that 1B where you find Andrew Luck and Russell Wilson, which Andrew Luck could be the 1A at any given time.
I think he is.
And as much as I love to throw Matt Ryan up in there, I'll throw Matt Ryan up in there because he may be at the lower end of that 1B spectrum, but he's still elite in my eyes. And Kirk Cousins is Matt Ryan Jr. He's not as accurate, maybe not as stable. But if I am building a team, I'm going to go with Aaron Donald.
All right, but here's the thing, though. Patrick Mahomes, Carson Wentz, Cam Newton, Jared Goff. You can put half the league in the elite A and B tiers if you want to.
You could.
We talked about this last week. the quarterbacks are getting crazy good. The average is going up. You mentioned the Andy Dalton line. You brought it up.
Yes.
Last week, 5 years ago, that was the average. The Andy Dalton line was the average of the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's bottom 5.
Yes.
So to me, Kirk Cousins is very much an average quarterback in this very, very, very strong quarterback league.
Yes, it is, man. We see more great quarterbacks in this league than probably any time in history.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's
We've
something
said
to
this.
see.
Almost
Every team has a franchise quarterback at this point.
Mm-hmm. And the question still would be, I mean, I love Aaron Donald. It's tough to pass on the guy like that. Transcendental talent, generational superstar.
Mm-hmm.
But starting a franchise, that's the idea. You start a franchise. And what better way to start a franchise than quarterback? I'd have to pick Kirk Cousins.
Really?
In the given situation, yeah, I'd have to. I need my quarterback.
Yeah.
I need my quarterback. Everyone else has one. I need one. So that's the only way that this is going to work.
You know,
as
you were telling me that, I'm thinking, I can pass on Kirk Cousins because I have Carson Wentz.
But I don't have anyone else, though. This is the thing.
Yeah.
I have to pick the quarterback here.
Okay,
so
I hear you.
That's just how the NFL works. Second to last lineup, we have Baker Mayfield and his teammate Odell Beckham.
Oh, wow! This is another one. Man, you are really good at this. Now, on the one hand, you have the rising superstar quarterback who could easily this season jump into that elite tier. And a lot of people say he has the potential to be that 1A tier. I mean, people are really high. Many analysts are extremely high on Baker Mayfield right now. And seeing it's not unwarranted. Seeing what he did at Oklahoma and his help in turning around the Browns last season. I mean, given they are still a 6-win team until further notice, but that's coming off of the horrid seasons that the Browns have had. I'm going with Baker Mayfield because
I'll also go with Baker Mayfield for the same reason that I made last time.
Now
I'll take the quarterback over the non-quarterback superstar.
Yeah, and Odell Beckham is known for one catch. I'm not saying he's not a generational talent, and he's not extremely good at the wide receiver position, but it's I can't say he's unproven, but he is not in the elite tier as far as a Julio or Antonio Brown. He just has never quite crossed that line to get into that tier.
I think I'd have to disagree with that. To me, I think he is, but still, your point stands. Yeah, people like to exaggerate and sensationalize. That's how the media works, and in sports, that's more than prevalent. After Beckham's first season, his rookie season with the Giants, and he had a fantastic season. He had a great start to his career. People started throwing around the name Jerry Rice and his stats, and if Beckham just did that same thing for 18 more years, he'd be that's nonsense. So we don't talk like that. That's foolish thinking. So Odell Beckham's great. He's a superstar wide receiver, top 5 in the league. Any team makes any team better.
I say top 10.
He has his character. Yeah, I give him a top 5. I pretty firmly give him top 5. He makes any team. Okay, let me ask like this: top 5 fantasy receiver, yes or no?
Yes, because he will have those boom games. I mean, in the last few seasons, he's been boom or bust. But yeah, I would draft him as probably the 5th wide receiver off the board.
5th receiver. Wow, he's been top 3 for me for a while now. I'm looking forward to discussing some fantasy football with you.
Oh yeah.
Now he has the character, some character, obviously, but so does Baker Mayfield at quarterback.
Oh, of course.
Again, I need the quarterback. I'm sorry, he's less proven than Kirk Cousins. Has a higher ceiling, lower floor than Kirk Cousins. And like Kirk Cousins, I will take Baker Mayfield over the more established, potentially better overall. Established superstar. And final one, this is a little bit of a humorous one because I just wanted to do it to close out the show. Eli Manning or Peyton Manning?
Now, which Peyton Manning? Are we talking about zombie Peyton from his last season?
right now. You walk straight into the old folks' home and tell them you're playing again for a couple of years.
Oh my God. Wow. Right now, you know what?
Right
Peyton.
I was gonna originally do like I don't know, like a young quarterback, kind of improving like Deshaun Kaiser maybe, or even Kyler Murray just for the heck of it. Yeah. Will Greer versus Brett Favre sort of thing.
Oh, but yeah.
I like the Manning comparison. So who you go with? It's very clear that whomever you pick, you only get for like 1 or 2 years.
If that, yeah. You can have Zombie Peyton or Zombie Eli. You know what? Peyton's proven to be a better game manager even when he's not at the peak of his physical condition, because he won a Super Bowl as Zombie Peyton, as I like to put it.
Yeah.
So I'm going with Peyton.
I'd probably also go with Peyton.
And plus, you got to
just let him take the field.
Yeah, what he's going to do to help improve your backup quarterback.
Exactly. Well. That's my big loophole. I'll take Peyton, and if he can't move anymore, he's going to be my offensive coordinator.
Yes, exactly. I have one for
you
also.
Yeah.
If you
all right.
Now this is kind of humorous as well, but I love thinking about this scenario. Okay, let's say your team is already established.
Right.
Your star quarterback goes down, and you're like, okay, time for the backup. Now you look over at your bench. You have 2 backups sitting on the bench.
All right.
One of them is Ryan Fitzpatrick, perennial backup, sometimes a starter, and does really well. And sitting right next to him, you have Josh McCown. Let's say he hasn't retired. So you have those 2 guys, journeyman. Who do you go with?
What situation am I in? Super Bowl final drive or week 4 in Tampa?
Yeah, I was thinking more of mid-season, yeah. And I wouldn't even say Tampa.
We're looking for a guy for the rest of the season, right?
Yeah, I would say a team that's in contention, though.
Wait, we're contending?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's mid-season, but you got a good record. Let's say you're mid-season, you're 7-3 or something.
See, I like Josh McCown as a really solid guy. If we're contending, though, we're going for it all. I'll take the less safe one, the more inconsistent but higher potential breakout guy in Ryan Fitzpatrick, because he's a guy he'll go for 500 and 5 tutties in one game, and if you happen to hit that game, you're good.
Yeah,
I like having Josh McCown for sure. He's about as safe as it can get. I like him a lot more than a lot of people do. I'm surprised he never got a start at a really long-term starting spot anywhere. But if we're contending, I wanna shoot for the moon and go for it all still.
Yeah,
Ryan Fitzpatrick is probably going to be the guy that I'm gonna start, because my team's going to be much weaker, obviously, without my star quarterback.
Yes,
and Josh McCown is going to be good, but probably not beating top playoff teams level good.
That's true.
So if I want to go for it all, give me Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, you could get.
I like Josh McCown.
You could get 4 interceptions.
Yeah, I like Josh McCown still being there holding the clipboard though.
Yeah. All right.
Gotta be a good situation. So
that was good.
That's a show. That's a show for today. It's been a pretty long one as well, about the same as last time, but it's been fun. A lot of NFL talk, and we definitely know one thing's for sure. We've got a lot of stuff to look out for in the upcoming season. Can't wait for training camp to start. Can't wait for ball to finally be played. I'm looking forward to the preseason, all the training camp footage. It's a tough time being a sports fan right now, and then in June, July, you really have nothing going on, and I just can't watch baseball every day. So
yeah, I agree.
I'm very much looking forward to football season officially getting underway once again. Hopefully we'll be back next week. If we have time, we'll definitely record another podcast. I think we can discuss a lot of position groups. Also, you propose maybe doing wide receiver breakout candidates. Yes. I like that idea a lot, because that sheds some light on some maybe not necessarily superstars yet, but players that definitely have the potential to kind of give people that preemptive warning of you might hear this name a couple of times next season. So I like that segment, and hopefully we can see him bring that back. If you have any suggestions, talking to the viewers, by the way, 4 topics that you would like to be discussed, mainly concerning the upcoming NFL season, or reviewing older stuff, maybe last season, looking at draft picks or whatever, let us know in the comments section. Let us know. Go check out Smokey's YouTube channel, by the way. You want to give a quick plug for that one?
Yeah, it is. Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit, but I assume you're asking me to plug the channel. We are the Trash Talkers. We do a brilliant mix of esoteric topics, even some conspiracies and things that you shouldn't be talking about, and we try to mix that with a good bit of humor. We are at youtube.com/Hollywood6. Now, when you type out Hollywood6, you're going to put Hollywood, the number 6, IX. And I wish he would change it, but he hasn't yet. It'd be nice if it was youtube.com/the Trash Talkers. That would make more sense. But Hollywood's egotistical, and I hope you don't hear this because he has left the building right now. But anyway, check us out. I think you'll like it. Give you a good laugh, if nothing else.
Yeah. I'll make it a little bit easier for you. The link to their channel is in the description of this video, so you don't have to go typing and spelling. You can just click on it and go check out some of the stuff that they're doing. Now, that being said, of course, if you are already on that channel and you know who Hollywood and Smokey are, but you're a sports guy anyway, you came for the podcast, you stay for the sports, feel free to check out my channel, Beyond Football. Probably link in the description as well. I talk about football and sports on this channel for the most part, so it's a bit more specialized.
Yeah, you definitely
haven't had too much chances to talk about football. Obviously, during the off season, there's not that much going on, but I really enjoy doing this podcast, and I'm looking forward to more episodes of it.
Yes, and you definitely want to check out Beyond Football because this guy breaks down film. He's I would say a film junkie from what I've seen out of him. Alex is great with analyzing and breaking down these players, even college players that are soon to be in the league. I've seen some great videos on this channel. So Beyond Football is the place you need to be for your football information.
All right, enough self-congratulations for the day. It's been a long day.
Yes.
Appreciate having you. It's been a great show, and until next week, we'll see you in the next video.
Deuces.